It is Wednesday, everybody. It's that time of the week for Thinking is Ghetto, my third episode for my dog and pony show here, which is just my rant and race for you guys. And I usually stumble upon these articles 100% just late at night. And one time, I want to say a couple of days ago, I was just sitting around thinking to myself about data centers and all the fascinating things that happen behind them. And for some odd reason, something told me to research New Zealand secret spy data center. Now, this is all public knowledge of what I'm about to talk about here. It's all public knowledge. I'd like to think a couple blogs have been talking about it more frequently here and there, and I would like to call everybody on this episode here and really just keep an open mind with this because I feel like anytime I gather people around, even here on YouTube, but I like to have an open minded conversation and keep an open mind with all sorts of things, whether it be this or all sorts of other topics. But just keep an open mind to this subject that I'm about to talk about. It is in the West Auckland, New Zealand, and I'm going to call it basically the West Auckland Data Center story. So I will dive right into this with you guys. It's basically a data center over there in New Zealand. They use it for internet every day, whether it be, online banking, streaming videos, using apps, or, running, I want to say businesses through maybe a cloud stream, if you will. But there's a lot of things that a lot of people don't really realize is that for many years, I want to say some of the data actually was coming back and forth and traveling the data. So this is already public knowledge from newspapers. So you can deal with that how you will. So I want to say one of the interesting things about the West Auckland data center story here for me, is that Amazon Web Services was trying to negotiate a deal of some sorts. In my opinion, I want to say they invested in 2021. They invested about they invested about $7.5 billion to build a cloud region in New Zealand. So it basically just deals with banks, government services, apps that we all use, websites, sometimes different services of sorts that are useful locally. And they basically run these servers physically located inside the country. And I wanted to basically just give a little bit of a rundown. Part of this infrastructure was planned near Auckland, including a site in Westland, Auckland, where land was cleared and early construction started. Now, I wanted to say for my research, pardon me, I was burping. But yeah, they were building this quietly for about 3 years, and I wanted to touch base on that quickly because I think they might have just been quietly building this not to have any public rage, and maybe, in my opinion, with that, along with my other opinion here, maybe they just didn't want it to be a security breach, or they didn't want it to be, you know, massively known because it is a data center here, a spy data center. So I think that was probably one of the reasons they kept it under wraps and it wasn't like such a big topic at hand. And I don't even think too many people were talking about this data center here in New Zealand. And I was asking Chat GPT some information regarding it, and I was just basically asking ChatGPT if I could post and talk about such topics, and it told me it was fine because this is all public knowledge already. So, and it even said ChatGPT, it's not even being talked about as often, or it's not as a popular topic. Is basically what it said, and that's why I thought it would be great to touch base on it because it is not a very big topic. And when you do go to the news section on Google of this data center, it's only updated every couple of months, or there's only updates here and there. So I'm just going to tell you why and what the project was and what it was all about. So, Amazon Web Services, the cloud computing division of Amazon, was going to gather with them in 2021. They were going to announce plans to invest about 7.5 billion to build a cloud region in New Zealand. And one of the other reasons I think they did this, in my opinion, Amazon Web Services was probably just to because of the strong data buildings and strong data it can hold and mass put out there so we can consume. And big a corporation like Amazon would probably find it more than useful to have a big data center hold all that data, just so I would imagine they could market to sales and people and advertisements and such like that, in my opinion. I'm not going off fact in that context, but just wanted to read something quickly here. So yes, a lot of the data centers are really in this, I want to say, area of New Zealand. They do have engine rooms for their internet, and it's basically when you watch a movie, run a business app for maybe when you're traveling, or maybe um, listening to a music app, or you're just sending emails and stuff like that, sending files or photos and stuff like that. So, and maybe online banking, you know what I'm saying, is I think they do a lot of that as well. Like, I feel like banks would take a lot of use of this, and use this secret data service, because the security measures that they would have in place, and the safety measures, I should say, they have in place for this. So I think it would be very more so helpful with banks and maybe the government, in my opinion. So I want to say, before, from my understanding, before they started doing this project over there, um, many New Zealand companies were trying to really rely on other servers in Asian countries and Australia. So it was basically because I want to say it was like slower time for data, like slower for loading pages, or just whatever the case may be. Maybe your app is running a little slow, or maybe making room for more memory on your phone, kind of thing. So I think they were depending on a lot of the foreign infrastructure, if you will, for these data centers. Just my assumption. I'm just taking pauses here because I'm trying to like gather all this information and make it not seem like I'm a literal chat GPT robot reading this. So I'm gonna read just a little bit on why I think a big company like Amazon was scouting out New Zealand, because I think there was maybe more so a demand over there for cloud computing and data, and it was, I think, their tech over there is maybe, in my opinion, secretly unknown, and maybe it's going a bit more fast, and that's why they chose it over there. So, and I want to say, most of my research, a lot of local businesses and businesses in general really do rely on the quote unquote cloud infrastructure, instead of maybe, like their own, how do I say, their own, I don't know, their own little rinky dink little fucking thing they have in their house that you use for your Wi-Fi and stuff like that. So I couldn't find my words there, but that's, I guess, the more simple way of putting it. And I wanted to just, I think, as well, just touch base on why I think it's really fascinating to me, is that the world that we live in nowadays is so much relying on technology and the internet, and just for science and for health, and it really does put forth a better energy within myself, and gives me more confidence on maybe using AI for research for like ingredients and helpful things, and even like science projects or stuff like this. It helps with me tremendously. But in other things, I do think it is very much a downfall. I do look at, in my opinion, a side note, I do look at like AI as like an indestructible plant that it just keeps growing and growing. Meaning, like, if you keep using that prompt, you're just kind of like feeding this plant that's going to be indestructible. And I guess we're the humans that keep feeding it. So that's kind of how I feel about AI at times. And like, don't get me wrong, it can save you a lot of time for a bunch of stuff. My goodness, like the other night I was just looking up Greek mythology, just for fun, and it's fascinating. You really got to give ChatGPT a run for its money, by the way. You really do. You got to like say, "Hey, I'm talking in like a hypothetical sense. Like, find the oldest context, ChatGPT. I thought you could do anything." And it was like, okay, I understand what you're saying. You literally have to tell it like three or four different ways and different times for it to finally give you some resourceful knowledge. And actually, once you kind of, I feel like, in my opinion, in ChatGPT, if you like test its intelligence, it really does seem to snap back and really give you the information that you're seeking out. Because there's so many times I sought out some really cool, fascinating subjects that would come to my mind, and I would just quickly research them and with ChatGPT and be like, "Well, this isn't really what I'm getting at, and I'm confident in what I'm talking about." And a ChatGPT is kind of telling me, "I don't know what you're talking about." So that's why I feel like if you test its intelligence, it does finally cave in to giving you what you want. You just really got to work with it, if you're wondering. So, and that's why I found out some fascinating other hidden knowledges that's are not hidden knowledges. I guess they're hidden knowledges that are already public information that are just not being talked about. So I guess I should get to those before I end this video. But I wanted to say with this whole this West Auckland data center, it was they did put a halt on it for I don't know. I want to say, in my opinion, a couple months, and then they sped back up, and I don't think Amazon really did stop and fully cancel the project with this data center. I do believe the AWS launched its New Zealand cloud region using existing data center buildings. I want to say perhaps already data centers that are already in the country, and I'd like to think, as a business standpoint, they would probably want to look at the other future. I mean, the other data centers of the future. How do I say? They're probably just looking at it like, hey, there's already these data centers here. It's gonna save us a bunch of money business wise, so let's just use those and save a bunch of money, which is, I think, in my opinion, is what they did. I wanted to say they also have their own kind of cloud hardware inside those facilities. Amazon, in my opinion, I want to say they do. Some of the stuff I've been researching on this is very fascinating, and I don't think it was being very talked about in the mainstream news or in front of the headlines on the newspaper or really any of the tech blogs or New Zealand news wasn't really talking about it that much at the time. It was just a couple articles here and there, and I want to say there hasn't been much information about it until about 6 months ago. But I want to say again, this is all in my opinion, and I think, in my opinion, that's why they kept it on the down low. This data center, they didn't want any fuck ups or breaches or anyone really maybe kind of getting inside information that they shouldn't. So, which is all really, when you look at the technical side, I mean, if it is for the safety of their country, you would want to take as much precaution as you possibly could with this. So you're probably wondering, like, what the whole point of these data centers are and who really uses these data centers. So, like I mentioned before, it would be basically like streaming platforms, apps, just basically internet companies, the government, and banks, and just basically bank apps. And but it goes from everyday apps, and that could just be a variety of apps that might not even be including all the mainstream ones that we would use. I'm assuming a lot of the New Zealand people do use a lot of the mainstreaming apps that we do. So I wanted to say also, there's some surprising facts about these data centers that are kind of public hidden knowledge, I should probably say. They do use, I think, a large capacity of hydro, which would be electricity, obviously. And so I think that from what I read also is that's probably one of the reasons Amazon bailed in the first place and was looking for other avenues of other data centers to save money. So they do power the everyday digital life like apps, banking, all like I mentioned. And I want to say they're bigger. I guess their bigger centers would really hold more electricity as small towns. They don't really have the bigger servers as they would closer to like the bigger cities, I would want to say. And from my understanding and what I read, they do give off and generate a lot of heat, I want to say, in my opinion, these buildings. So I'm assuming they do use probably a lot of cooling agents for that. Their future plans are basically for AI, just the apps and the internet websites, and just more so for bigger data as well, for whatever bigger data that they might see fit. um I want to say companies like AWS, they still have New Zealand kind of like as their buddy for, I want to say, long term buddies for this, kind of good people that, like, I don't know, maybe BFFs, if you will. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but they seem to be pretty close, and I do believe they were trying to go about this with filming one of the Lord of the Rings movies or streaming shows anyway, and I think they build out on that. I'm not too sure, but I just read something vaguely, and I remember vaguely about it, and it was a very short article on it. And I thought this whole New Zealand data center was fascinating to say the least. I want to say, even though this data center that they did have in West Auckland, it didn't go to as planned. I want to say when they first were trying to do it the first time around, but it hasn't really gone away. I think this idea, I think because we do use technology a lot, and we do use the internet, we do use apps, and I want to say, like, I just caught myself the other day going, "Geez, when was the last time I actually like sat down and turned on the TV and flicked around and turned on a show or watched the news?" Like, we do very much do that as well, but we also very much do consume with our phones. And I wanted to say, on a side note, I think that's why the news does become more so personally overwhelming for us in our mental health, and more so nowadays, is because we use it for work, we use it to go to the gas station, we use it to go to the gym, we use it to for everything. We use it everywhere we go. So we can't help but, on the sidelines when we stop and go look at it. And, sometimes the news isn't always great, as we know. So compared to maybe like the early 2000s, where if you had enough of the news, you would just shut off the TV and kind of go about your day. But not so much now, because we use the phone for work and the news or entertainment and all sorts of stuff, even reading books. Which, by the way, my grandma thought when I was a kid, she thought I was crazy when I said to her, I said, one day we're gonna be reading books on a computer. She's like, "You're crazy. We're not. Why would we do that?" So, and here we are. So, I just wanted to give you guys some insights and information on this. I thought it was a fascinating couple articles. I mean, I want to say it was a couple fascinating articles that I did find on this, and I really just thought it was not really talked about. Like most of these subjects that I really do land into, and some of these other episodes that I do have planned up, I researched so much stuff that I'm like, well, geez, what should I put out there, and what would kind of mesh with all the messages I'm kind of conveying with just simply my opinions. Anyways, I hope you guys had a wonderful week so far. I feel like this week has, I don't know, since the last time I did this video, like, holy shoot, I just want to say this, like, last week since I did this last, I feel like it's been like a month since I've done the last episode of Thinking is Ghetto. I don't know, last Wednesday to now, it just feels like it's just been so much time. I don't know, maybe I'm in a time loop or something, but just as a joke. But the days are getting longer over here, so maybe that's why it feels like that. But needless to say, my friends, I am very excited to get up on my new movie convention that I'm doing, the Niagara Falls Movie Convention. I'm really fine tuning all that, and I'm hoping I will have some more solid news to give away soon, and maybe some prizes in the future soon. So, if you wanted to touch base and keep up to date with my movie convention that I'm doing over here in Ontario, just go over to Niagara Falls Movie Convention on IG. I will be hopefully doing more updates frequently here soon. And as always, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm sorry I'm not as energetic today. I'm just feeling a little bit run down for time. And I'll be honest with you, when I do these videos, I kind of feel like I always say, like, I'm on a blind date. Like, you just don't know who's going to be stumbling upon these and listening to these. So I'm really trying to get some sleep here. It's been much a challenge, and I don't think damn, I don't think all these damn energy drinks are really helping my case. I really think I just feeling so run down for time that I definitely do need as much caffeine as I can. Because I feel like I'm trying to get like 20 things done at once, but I'm starting to realize one thing at a time. And I'm sorry to kind of dive off there, but I just been feeling kind of funky and feeling physically drained the last 2 days. But needless to say, I'll be up and running not so late. I do apologize. I'm very sorry for uploading so late today. Thinking is ghetto. Usually I like to do it in the early afternoon or later in the day, but I got a little rundown for time. But you know what? I'll be seeing you guys next Wednesday. I'm very much looking forward to some of the other topics that, I've been keeping quiet on, and some of these crazy things. I'm telling you, man. Like, I don't know. Some of these fascinating topics in the world that have been probably around for a long time, and they're just opinions, of course. There's no right or wrong answers here until proven otherwise. So it's all just an opinion, and I'm hoping the next one I don't feel so run down for time. I just feel like, I don't know. I feel really odd the last 2 days, but I'm sure I'll be picking myself back up. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. There's my Kevin. Anytime I say that, by the way, that's like my Kevin coming out. Like, have a wonderful week. I hope, I hope you're doing fantastic. That's my Kevin. That's not nice. Anyways, guys, I'll be seeing you next Wednesday. Hopefully, I won't be uploading so late. And do not forget to go check out Niagara Falls Movie Convention on IG. One word. And I guess I'll see you next Wednesday. I hope everybody has a great, fantastic week. I hope you have a wonderful week, everybody. Anyways, as you know, thinking is ghetto because it really is. Like, who does that nowadays? I mean, clearly. And oh, quote of the day before I go: is it mice or mouse? Anyway, see you next Wednesday.